Blessings, fellow weird and wild ones. My name's Goddess, aka G, aka your friendly neighborhood witch. They, them, their pronouns, please and thank you, point blank, period. Thank you for joining me in the practice of finding our way back to wholeness. This is our temple, our playground, our life, and our truths. During our audio session together, I will be talking with my village on how we are healing, changing paradigms, and decolonizing and degendering the mind. You are not alone. You are enough. Let's plant these divine seeds together. This work is for the collective from me, Brandon, Brenda, Kay, and Vesta. And there's a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes. Find ways to support and reciprocate all the co-creators on the show at the links below. Grab your pens and paper, grab your woes, and let go. You can rest. Olivia is a full-spectrum doula and lactation counselor who primarily serves Black and queer folks in Des Moines. Olivia was called to birthwork in 2018 and has been a lifelong advocate for reproductive justice. Her practice is rooted in joy, in opposition to the medical racism and disparity experienced by these communities. Their mission is to empower families and cultivate our collective care and liberation. I love that you said your practice is rooted in joy. That's so dope. Thank you for being on the show, Olivia.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. And also, I just want to shout out my brother for helping me write that.
Oh, word up! Fam support. Fam support. Okay, so where is a little bit of your brother in your bio?
My brother is super creative. He's a poet. And so I was just like, Langston, this is what I'm trying to say. Can you help me like craft these words? And he did a dope job, I think. Well, we did it together, but like, yeah, love sibling support.
That's dope. That's so dope. I want to hear some of your brother's poetry at some point later on. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right now we talk about you. All right. So how we start our podcast is we share our names and our pronouns and then the race or ethnicity in which we embody. So I'll go first. My name is Goddess. I also go by G, and my pronouns are they, them, their exclusively. And I am Black. Just period, Black. How about you?
Yes, I am Olivia. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and they, them, theirs. Flexible. I also identify as a Black. Did I miss any questions?
No, you got them all.
Yeah, Blackity Black, Black.
All right. One more Black for those who didn't hear Black. Black. All right. And our check-in question today is, how is your heart today? Like in this moment, how's your heart?
Ooh, well, yeah, this is like only, I think this is 2 weeks almost tomorrow that my dad passed away. So yeah, I still have a little bit of a heavy heart about that because it's very fresh, but I moved into my, new apartment. I moved at the beginning of this month, and the vibes in here are immaculate. And so that's really making my heart happy. Yeah, I love my space that I've cultivated. So yeah, finding a lot of joy in it. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you have a space to kind of like nurture your, that like nurtures you and like is regenerative, but like because it's your energy that's like generating it and it's generating you, and that's like really symbiotic. And yeah, I do want to take a moment to just much love to your father, wherever his journey is taking him now.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. My heart today is actually good. I just came out of a therapy appointment meeting, whatever, therapy session.
Oh my gosh, me too.
What?
Therapy this morning too.
Woo!
Yay!
Shout out to Get Up Mental Health
Love
support.
it.
Yeah. That felt really good. We're gonna start EMDR again.
Nice. Yeah, we were talking about that last time.
Yeah, really. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel really like grounded today and this morning. And I found out that my mom is going through some health issues that are pretty not, I don't want to say bad, but like pretty serious. So navigating that has been heavy on my heart. I don't have the strongest relationship currently with a lot of my family. So my heart feels like it's really dedicated to caring for me right now. And I am so appreciative of that. Yeah, that's my heart right now. That's my heart. So you've always been like doing, not always, but like this was like from, it seems like from a very young age, which also shout out to parents who are teaching their children about sex positivity and like not making it something to be ashamed of. Like that is so powerful and really needed. We could do a whole like series of podcasts on that alone.
Major shout out to my mom.
Yeah, major shout out to your mom. But you were so you've been like doing things with reproductive health for quite some time, even before you got into being a doula specifically. So how has that kind of like from reproductive health to like maternal health or people who are birthing in their health, how do you think that there's like, because I noticed that there's a separation of how that's talked about. Do you think that like that there needs to kind of be a bridge there? Like we need to start looking at like the bigger picture of like from when we even before we start to become like, I don't know, like our bodies start getting us ready to be reproductive beings. To actually like going through birth. Like how can we start to like bridge that conversation and like looking at the bigger picture?
For sure. There's a major separation. I mean, even in like some of the best sex ed courses I've seen, you don't really talk about what happens after the egg is fertilized. Like it pretty much goes to the egg is fertilized, then there's a fetus, and then like it stops, the road ends. And it's like a lot of times, even people that like clients that I've met recently are like young people like our age are like, I am pregnant now, but I don't know what's going to happen to my body. Like you just never have been taught like about the trimesters or labor or anything. Like it's just not included in our education. And yeah, I think that definitely needs to be bridged. I think it's tough because you like sex ed is already so like relegated to the back corner that adding even like another week to talk about pregnancy would be a hard sell, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's just where our country is in terms of sex ed. But yeah, I think that's where like a lot of childbirth ed classes come in, but then it's usually, you know, an additional cost, especially good ones. But there's free ones through hospitals that I think could probably also be improved. But yeah, at the point that you're pregnant, you probably should already know like what's going to happen to your body. But, you know, it's just not part of our education when we're younger, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I think like, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, like the idea of reproductive justice. So Sister Song is a reproductive justice organization in Atlanta. And I don't know if they're in Atlanta, in Georgia though. Anyways, they are so dope, and they have been around for a long time advocating for reproductive justice. And I think that framework really bridges the gap for me. And that's kind of what I've based like my services around. So reproductive justice is like basically 4 tenets. And so the first is the ability to have children. The second is the ability to not have children. The third is your right to bodily autonomy. Have children, not have children, bodily autonomy. And parenting the children that we have in safe and sustainable communities. So a lot of things fall under that. If you think about like parenting our children, especially, includes like public safety, like, I don't know, so many things that I think usually get left out of conversations about like reproductive health. But like safety in your community has a lot to do with if you can raise children or if you can have children. Or like environmental justice has major effects on our body that determine if we can have children or parent them in a safe community. I think that framework really brings together all of these issues, including like sex education and maternal health, right? So I feel like aligning myself and learning a lot from organizations that utilize those frameworks has really helped me be able to bridge a lot of different movements into one that like sees a whole person and not just someone who is pregnant or someone who is birthing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And can you repeat the name of the organization that you mentioned?
Sister Song.
Sister Song. Okay. Thank you. And so when we first met, our friendship is new and blooming. When we first met, you were telling me about that and how when you're working with your clients, you look at like the entire picture of like what their environment is like. Do they have access like to food and services? And I don't think that, and I honestly had never heard a doula talk about those things. So can you say more about that and like how you incorporate that into your work? Because I think that that's really important.
Yeah, so the reproductive justice framework that I just talked about, that in combination with like social determinants of health, which is basically like the factors that affect how you live, work, and play. So like, once again, like clean water or like having a park in your neighborhood or feeling safe to walk down the street, all these kinds of things. Those really informed the way that I set up my services and the way that I set up my business, because I think a doula kind of traditionally has been someone who works with like upper class folks and basically like provides them a lot of extras, which is like super cool. I mean, and that's still what a doula is sort of, but I think that doulas have the potential to be so much more than that. More than like a person to make you smoothies. It could also be someone to like teach you about fresh food or to help you with your SNAP benefits and like learn how to use them or where you can use them to get healthy food. And I think it takes sometimes more work and more time, but I think that especially for me and my mission being to like liberate Black folks, I think that it's really necessary and like a vital part of my work that I work with people to be able to empower themselves and to have the information and the tools to do all the things that I'm doing for them without me. Because I can teach you how to do this, and I know how to do it. So being able to share that knowledge and share these skills and make sure that it's sustainable, I think is really important. It can help our collective liberation, because if one family learns how to do these things, or is supported, not even learns how to do these things, a lot of times people they already know everything that they need to do. They just need some support in doing it. Like, I'm sure that's happened to like everyone before, that you just need to go register your car, but it sucks. You know that you need to do it. You know how to do it. But it's like if you had a friend go with you, it's a lot more enjoyable. maybe not even enjoyable, but at least you're supported. And so I think that, like, just being able to create community care and create, space where people feel like they can be vulnerable and messy. Like, a lot of the times when I come into someone's like postpartum house, it's like a mess. I mean, they have an infant, a newborn. They have like laundry that needs done, clothes that need folded, like dishes, things everywhere. I mean, with an infant, there's not often, a lot of people don't have someone who will just come to their house and like help them out for a day. But having like someone who's trained and specifically knows what they need to be doing, I don't know. I just think that it's really supportive service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing it for folks.
Yeah, I really appreciate how it's not about like, I don't know, the way you look at like, you already know how to do a lot of these things. Like, you know what your body needs. So how do I support you in tapping into that resource? How do I support you and like kind of like bringing you back to self, bringing you back to like, okay, what are your basic needs right now? Like, are they like, I need my house to be clean so that I can fully function in it. I need to go get groceries. And looking at like the person's support system, that's like really key. I took a course on reproductive health, and one of the workshops was around like having kind of like a train of care and like working with elder women in the community with like creating like a food so like bringing the birthing person like food so that they don't have to cook, and like looking and like me, I'm trying to like look at that in like less of like a gendered way. Like, all the women just bring all the food. Now we can look at it that differently. But I think it is so vital that we start kind of changing the dynamics of people who work in health and like mental health, of like, how are we presenting this material so that we are championing and acknowledging that people already know what their needs are. It's just about like creating language around it and like reaccessing that. And so that it like becomes something that like can be shared. And really bringing it back to community care. And I really love that like your work is so deeply rooted in that. And I think that like disassociation from that and like that like hippy dippy hoity toity idea of doula is like really rooted in like whiteness, elitism, anti-Blackness, all of that. It's so rooted in that. And I think that, and your approach like starts the work of like dismantling that. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really like reframing our approach to medicine as, this person knows a lot. This person is an expert in their own body, is an expert in their own experience in their community. And me as a medical provider, me as a doula is just coming to like work with them on what they need and what they want. I think we have a very paternalistic approach to medicine in this country, and it leads to all kinds of harms that we're seeing play out before our eyes.
Yeah. Say that again. Yes. Can you maybe share a moment where like the your imagination of what birthing can be like was reflected back to you in your own work?
Yeah, I'll say one like client that like really sticks out to me. She was having a baby and she had no support. When I met her, she was homeless. I helped her, look for an apartment, helped her find furniture for the apartment. We talked about food, learned about her SNAP benefits, went to a community garden, all these things. Like, just got to spend a lot of time with her and really got to know her. And when it came time to like go to the hospital and get ready to birth the baby, like, we had worked on this so much, and she learned. Well, she already knew, but I think that we really cultivated her ability to believe that she deserves what she needs and wants. And so when it came to birthing her baby, she was a badass. She was telling these nurses, like, no, I'm not doing that, which you are totally allowed to do, which should be so normalized. You're in charge of your own experience. But I was so proud of her. And I was like, in that room with her for 36 hours while she was birthing her baby. And I just got to witness like how powerful and amazing she was. And I was the only one with her. Like, there was no one else that came to support. She would have been alone if I wasn't there. I'm really grateful that I got to work with her, honestly. She like really rooted me in like why I'm doing this. And it was also nice to spend time with her and get to know her. And I still get to see her baby on Instagram, like walking, all these things. It just makes me so joyful that like she gets to pass down these things to her daughter, that they're in an apartment and they're safe, that she was able to birth this baby like with basically no drugs. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using drugs either, but it was part of her birth plan to not use drugs, and she did it. I mean, yeah, that's what a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of.
Yes.
Like disparity and racism, just so much horrible shit around maternal health. But it's like, it's great to see like a family doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even without like, okay, so if this woman was not experiencing not having a house or a roof over her head, wasn't experiencing being separated from a support system, wasn't experiencing, did you say she was Black? I think you said she was Black. Yeah, okay. Like it wasn't in a Black body, like the way in which we paint the picture of birth makes it sound so scary and horrible. Like you're either like, it's going to be this super painful moment, or like, it's going to be like really peaceful and like blissful. And you're just gonna have this perfect pregnancy, which also is really scary because you're like, that feels really unattainable and unrealistic. So it feels like very distant. And so to be a support to someone and like find like in discovering their voice and knowing that like they have a right to choose what happens in the doctor's office and while they are giving birth is so important, because I don't think, at least for me, for the longest time, I didn't know that like this is actually like me choosing my doctor. This is me like like I'm not blessed to I'm grateful to have them, but like this is something I'm in control over, and that goes for all healthcare needs, but I think we forget that, and I think as people of color, it's our default to almost like apologize for coming in, or like feel like we are giving up some of our power automatically when we step into a doctor's office. And that's just like deeply rooted in all of the ways in which the medical field has used our bodies in horrible ways.
Normalized by the medical industry. Like, you go into your doctor's office and they enforce a power dynamic with you. Like, it's not just us as Black folks or us as people of color, even more broadly. Like, it's not just us coming into this place and feeling like we're giving up power and just feeling like that, or like knowing that it is because of the history. It's also that these institutions intentionally make you feel that way. Like, I think there's many places where you can point to where it's like, this is not in your best interest, actually. It's in the hospital's best interest, or your doctor's best interest, or a pharmaceutical company's best interest. Like,
Right.
I think the amount that we put health at the center of our healthcare is kind of minimal sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it is okay to ask all the questions you need to ask and get second opinions and do your own research and come back with more questions. Like, your health is completely, it's in your hands. It's your body. And I know that's a hard thing to sometimes like accept and take in, but the more we talk about it, I feel like the more it will be a thing, and the more I practice it within my own health. So we were talking about doctors. So like, what are some of like the gaps that doulas can help to fill, especially for like BIPOC and QT BIPOC communities that doctors and nurses aren't currently filling?
Yeah, so I think there's honestly a lot of social services in our communities that are missing or are hard to access. And I think that is also a part of what feeds the medical industry and system so much. Like, if people had safe housing, or if people didn't have to deal with domestic violence, or, you know, so many things that if we had some of these other issues in our communities had more support around, then I think we would see less of these issues in like healthcare settings. But some of the roles that doulas can play that's currently a gap, I think, is in supporting folks to meet, like I said, those like social determinants of health, or even just basic human needs. A lot of times when you go to your doctor, they don't ask you, how are you eating, or how have you been sleeping, or, you know, are you currently, have you experienced like sexual assault or domestic violence, which they're not equipped at all to ask these kinds of questions, really, because they don't have solutions for you. But I think that's some of the gaps that doulas can fill, especially for pregnant folks. Like me talking to my clients a lot about the things that are available in the community and just nutrition in general, or talking to them about self-care, like, how are you taking care of yourself right now? What are some things that you need to accomplish this month? Which is also a form of self-care, is like getting things done and not making like larger problems for yourself. And so, yeah, I think doctors really, they get a limited amount of time with you. And a lot of times, like you said, like, we don't feel like we get to choose them, even though we do. I mean, and still, always, what a choice about access. Even me, a pretty privileged person looking for a new doctor, calling all these places, making sure that they take my insurance, having access to a computer to look them up. Like, so many things are required, even if they're available, technically. So I think, yeah, there's some of the gaps. And just knowing the system, being able to come with you to your doctor's visit and take notes for you.
Yeah.
They're not super helpful. Or ask questions that maybe you haven't thought of, but we might want to know the answers to, or talk to you about, you know, did that provider make you feel comfortable? I noticed that your body, that your body language changed in this way when your doctor brought this up. Do you want to talk about that? Things like that doctors just don't do a lot of the times. So yeah, I think a lot of those kind of, and just like care in general, a lot of doctors and nurses don't, especially when we're talking about labor, they're not necessarily trained to like comfort you. Like, they know how to do medical procedures for sure. Some of them might be like nurturing people, but they're not necessarily trained. It's not at all their first priority to like make sure that you're comfortable, or like see if you're okay. It's like their job to make sure that your vitals are good. But it's just kind of if you think about like hospitals, especially, as most of them are businesses, then it starts to make a lot more sense why doctors and nurses like behave the way that they do sometimes.
Yeah, hospitals are very rooted in capitalism and whiteness, and it's very transactionary. It's not about, like you said, it's trying to get someone from point A to point B, and a lot of times point A to point B is felt like it's the decision of the doctor to choose,
right.
And what happens in between point A and point B is very much like not a part of like what the doctors, like the healthcare providers are looking at all.
Yeah, because when I'm doing with my clients, like if they're birthing in a hospital, create like a birth plan of like what ideally would you want this to look like. Your doctor is probably never going to sit with you and say, okay, you're giving birth in a month. What do you want this to look like? How do you want to feel? What do you want to wear? Do you want the lights on or off? Do you want any scents in the room? Do you want us to come check on you every 30 minutes or once an hour?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to sit with you and ask you these questions. They're just going to do whatever they do.
Yeah, the protocol is.
Whatever the protocol is.
Yeah.
But then as a doula, I can sit with you and say, this is a once in this child's lifetime experience, right? Your baby is only going to be born one time, and you carried them for 9 months. So, this is kind of a celebration in a way. What do you want this to look like? Do you feel more comfortable with the lights on or off? Do you have any people who've passed on in your life or people who can't make it that you want to put their picture on the wall that will help you while you're laboring? Do you have a fuzzy blanket that you really like that you want to bring? So many things. Do you want headphones? Maybe you want to jam to some music. So many things that you can talk about in advance and think about what will make you feel good in this space. Which is just like a level of care for another human person. The doctors don't really have the capacity to do, I think.
Yeah.
But I think eventually I would love if doulas like me did not have to exist in this capacity, because I think a lot of the things that I do for folks should be built into our healthcare. All of it as looking at it from a holistic lens. A lot of the things that I do, no one should have to pay me to do those things. They should be part of what we consider caring for a pregnant person. And I mean, even just culturally, as us as individuals as well, how do we show up for pregnant people in our lives? Once one of your friends get pregnant, you just never hit them up again, or can you bring them a meal, or ask them how it's going, or I don't know. I think even as a society outside of our healthcare system, we kind of don't really know what to do with people who are going through transitions in that way sometimes. But yeah, I think a lot of work to be done, but I think, I'm really glad that there are at least avenues, places, and community where you can find that kind of care that we don't get in our healthcare system. But I think it's also changing, especially as doulas have become more popular in the past couple of years. I think people are starting to see that there's a lot of ways that we can care for pregnant folks. And then, in our larger political conversations as well, there's a lot of ways we can just care for each other, care for community, and practice mutual aid, all these things.
Yeah, I feel that too. I think that things are changing for a lot of how we practice community care. And I think there's a lot of people in the in the various BlPOC communities that are trying to make darn sure that it's not a trickle down effect to us. First, rich white people get it, and then middle class folks get it, and then trickle down to us. We are trying to find ways of if we can't get these from the systems that are currently in place, hospitals and governmental aid, and even sometimes nonprofit organizations. Actually, not sometimes, but organizations how can we provide this for our communities? And yeah, that's really important. So for maybe doctors and nurses and even people in the nonprofit sector who are listening, how can they, like, what are some steps that they can take to start like decolonizing their approaches to reproductive and like reproductive and birthing bodies like support? With like in conjunction with like BIPOC doulas.
Yes. I would say, honestly, I would start with reproductive justice. Like, I am Sister Song stan. I love them. And they have so much wisdom to offer. They've been doing this work a long time. And I think doing things from a reproductive justice lens is a really good first step, because it requires you to include racism in your analysis of when you do things. And it's quite holistic. And I think that perspective would change the way a lot of people approach medicine. They actually have they collaborate with an organization called Black Wellness Matter Alliance. And that organization has like toolkits for people who are medical providers and want to do better, and a lot of information and articles and research. And so I recommend that as a good place to start too for specific maternal health folks. There's a lot of really good books. I read Killing the Black Body, and that book was heavy and really intense. And I think
that sounds
history. Yes, I think it's really important history for everyone to read. It's about the history of reproductive justice for Black women in this country from like slavery till pretty recently. And I think especially reading it in that way, it's like, wow, there are such clear patterns that we just keep repeating. I wouldn't say we, but I would say there are clear patterns being repeated. And, I'm not taking responsibility for those patterns. So there's other good books. Medical Apartheid is also a really good book.
That's on my list for sure.
Yes. There's a lot of good books too. So I would recommend reading if that's your thing. What else would I recommend? There are a lot of good things for like specifically white folks around racism. It is a golden age to find information on the internet. So I'm not going to say anything specifically. Do your own research. There's so many things out there. Even you have something. Don't you have a workshop called us for this?
Yeah, I do have the. Oh, thank you. I do have an inner wisdom keeper workshop specifically for white-bodied folks to start unpacking their whiteness, and also like creating protocols within the workshop so that they can take that out and like use it in their day-to-day lives. Because it's so important, because I think like white people go in these workshops and they're like, oh, I am now like equipped and I am no longer racist. No, it is it is going to take all of our entire lives to start to work on our anti-Blackness. And it's important that like you keep, like, after you read these books, you process them with people. Don't use Black people as your emotional labor. Let me be good. But process these with other white folks and keep taking workshops and keep working on it, and like make it a part of your day-to-day life to start to really analyze like who taught you how to be white and who taught you how to accept the benefits of this like white safety that you're in, or this illusion of white safety that you're in.
I will say, a lot of white people I know have told me that they're reading Robin DiAngelo's book. And we don't have time to get into all of this today, but just examine why you feel comfortable reading about anti-racism from another white person. And also giving that white person your money, but also everyone else you're going to recommend that book, to so much money for a white person Just talk about racism. Just think about it, whatever.
Yes, because like it's crazy. No, because this is important. This is so, especially now, especially with the bullshit we're going through now. It is so important that white people like start to ask themselves why they keep pumping money into other white people talking about how they are working on their racism, but then go to their Black friends or like Black loved ones to and ask them to do free emotional labor under the pretense that, oh, this is like someone that cares about me, to like process that with them. Mm-hmm. Like that is so not how it should be. You need to like flip that, point blank period. Like you need to flip that. You need to be paying Black people who are doing this work already. Like we do it like just on a day-to-day basis because we live in a white world. But like start paying Black people who are like really equipped with the same knowledge that these white people have, and even more knowledge, way more, automatic, off the bat, we got more knowledge on this.
That's honestly what blows my mind, is like there are actual Black people who actually experience racism, who are actual educators and facilitators out there teaching, specifically doing the work of teaching white people about it, and yet white people want to give another white person their, like, to me, it's like you started off wrong. Like, you're trying to learn about racism, but like you're doing it wrong already.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, all right, let's first learn critical thinking skills. Let's start there. Because I mean, as a Black person, and also I don't know about you, but like now as like a whatever social justice person, I can't look at anything or read anything or do anything without being like, oh wow, this is really heteronormative. Oh wow, there's no Black people in this movie. Oh wow, that was really transphobic joke. Like, I feel like that's like a first step, at least, to be like, you need to cultivate critical thinking skills to understand when something is messed up. Because I actually just read a really good article about this the other day. If I find it, I'll send it to you. I probably
yes, please.
Like on Instagram, like whatever, scrolling on Instagram. But it was about this person, and maybe I'll find it. I'll think about it. I'll see if I can find it.
If it pops into your head, like even like you know what? If you send it to me, I probably won't even read it because I'm so tired.
Excellent.
But like,
but yeah,
talk about it. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes. Okay. It was about this Black person, and they were saying like, oh, I hate that I don't know what this is called, so I can't credit this person. But anyways, sorry, whoever you are out there. It's a Black person. They're talking about how they told their friend, they explained all these things. Like, they explained, like, Colin Kaepernick kneeling. They explained, like, Nipsey Hussle. They explained all these things. And that person, like, learned, to say the right things or do the right things. But they never examined their, like, critical consciousness. You know what I mean? Like, they never examined, like, the fundamental belief. They just learned to say the right things. And I feel like we have to be really wary about that. And so that's why I'm like, why I
it's
really
performative.
Stress. Yes, that's why I really want to stress the critical thinking as the first step. Because once you have that, then maybe you would think about, should I read this book by a white person about racism? Like, then you already have critical thinking skills to be like, I don't know if this is it. But it's like, because like the universe, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, has put out, read Robin DiAngelo's book to be a good white person, then everyone's like, okay, order it on Amazon. But it's like, let's start with like, why are you doing this? Like, what is your intention here? What critical thinking skills do you need to cultivate in order to move through this process, with ease and like probably not ease. It's probably going to be very uncomfortable, but like,
oh yeah, it's going to be hella uncomfortable.
At least with the intention of growth, I think to make sure that it's not performative, starting there is really important.
Right. I think that it is like you were talking about, like that there is this like want for it to be easy or want for it to be comfortable. And it's not. If you are doing actual work of unpacking your whiteness and your racism, you are going to be very uncomfortable. Very. And I think if you're learning about it from a white person, first of all, I think that it's deeply rooted in what you consider to be valuable and knowledge, and who you think has the knowledge, and that's other white people. And also, you want to feel comforted by the fact that, like, oh, we're working on this. Like, I'm getting this from like a fellow white person, and you don't want to have to feel the discomfort of a Black person telling you you are racist. What you are doing and what your ancestors have done is killing my people, both on an energetic and physical level. Like, you don't want to hear that, but you're going to have to hear that, and you're going to have to process that. And that's like, so like, oh, right. Yeah. And there there's workshops out there that like do address that. Mine is one. I will say that. So no shout out. Sorry.
Yes. I mean, I was just going to say, even the work of like not researching what book you want to read, like, it's like every time I hear someone say this to me, I'm like, you just heard that this book was popular and got it. Like, you didn't
think of, you didn't read the back cover or anything. Like, nothing. Like a review. Did you read a review by a Black person, like multiple Black people? Like,
or if I see someone like put it on their Instagram, I'm like, it's so performative.
It's performative. And they want a quick fix. They want to put a Band-Aid over and be like, nope, done. We did it. I read the book. I'm done. Point A to point B. Again, point A to point B. There's so much that needs to happen in between that. That's hella white.
Connection in between.
Yes. Okay, I want to go because I think we got on a tangent, and I love our tangent. Like, we need to like spill some tea after this, like later on down the but okay, so we know that there's some white fuckery going on in the medical field, and you gave some suggestions on what nurses and doctors can start to do. But like, what are some like maybe 3 suggestions you have for people who are birthing, who may not have like financial access to services, to help them in like planning their birthing process?
Yes. So I will say, I think doulas are amazing. So I will say first, ways that you can pay for a doula, which is if you have an FSA or an HSA, like health savings account, you can use that to pay for doula a lot of time. Also, getting it as a like baby shower gift. I feel like that is a dope baby shower gift to be like, here's some support for your pregnancy. And also, like, with me at least, I do mutual aid as part of my business. So, like, if you can't afford to pay my price, you can pay less. Or I accept barters, all those kind of things. I think, like, using sliding scales and barters and trades and things like that make things a lot more accessible. So I do that as much as I can with my business. And you could ask any other doula if they would do it, and they'll endorse it if it says no. And then other tips that I would say is when you go to appointments with your doctor, I would say take notes. A lot of times it's illegal to like record someone without their consent. So just take notes. Definitely consulted someone about that because I used to do that. But yeah, taking notes, really important, and can help you like come up with more questions for your next appointment, and also like hold them accountable if they said, yeah, we'll have this test done by this time, or we want to bring you in for another something at this time. You can hold them accountable. And it also helps you like remember your questions. I don't know if this happens to you, but I always like get into the doctor's office and then I'm like waiting, and then you see them, then you're waiting, then you see a nurse, then you're waiting. And then I forget all my questions. So it'll help you with that too. Also like building self-advocacy skills. So like there's a lot of trainings on self-advocacy and like videos on YouTube and stuff with like some tips for self-advocacy, but like truly being confident in the fact that you deserve good things and kindness in the world. And if someone is not treating you with kindness, then you have the right to do something about that. So like if you're in a provider's office and they're rude to you, not acceptable. Like it's really good to start building those skills so that if you're like laboring, or if you're the partner of someone who's laboring, you can like genuinely stand up for yourself and say, we're not getting this test done. we don't want this medication. Here's what we do want. We're going to labor in this position. We don't want to be interrupted for this amount of time. Whatever it is. That's super important. I would also say, like, cultivate your support system. So, like, in advance, if you can, know, like, think about, I mean, you could do this for any part of pregnancy, laboring, or having a child. Think about what you need, especially if you can think about it in, like, maybe a month in advance. Like, what do you need most? If you need access to something, if you need money, if you need a connection, if you just need support, whatever it is, and, like, write them all down. And then think about, like, who is available, who might be able to help you, or who might have access to those things, or might be able to lend you something.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, especially the last question of, like, thinking about your support system and being comfortable and feeling safe to talk about, like, your plan with your support system, and, like, asking them, like, hey, are you going to be able to show up for me in this way? Or do you have the capacity for that? Because you don't want to be needing it and, like, having expected it, and the other person's like, hey, I did not know.
Right. Checking in with those people before
yes.
If there's something you have the capacity to do is so important, and to make sure that you just have, you know, the support that you need. So if you're coming home from the hospital after laboring, you know, okay, 3 people are bringing me meals this week, or whatever it is.
Right.
And, like, being able to have the love for yourself and, like, a little bit of humility to say, like, I need help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've told us a little bit about Kismet Doula services and some of the things that you are doing, but can you tell us more about your current offerings and work?
Yes. So, yeah, I'm a full spectrum doula. So I've been a labor doula for 2 years, postpartum doula for about a year, and a lactation counselor for about a year. As a labor doula, I meet with clients prenatally. I support them in some specific areas, like in doing birth planning and talking about support systems, providing education and resources. But then I also help folks in, you know, meeting their basic needs and thinking about, like, all these other aspects of their life that will affect their pregnancy, right? So thinking about food and nutrition. I do, like, some yoga postures for folks. I'm actually being trained later this month, so that'll be exciting to offer more of that. And connecting folks to resources or other folks that might be able to help them meet their needs. And then I'm also available for, like, text and phone support throughout that whole period. And then I do continuous labor support. So the whole time that they're in labor, I'm there right now, mostly virtually, but I do some in person still with masks and all of that. And I do physical support, like giving massages or helping them go on walks, do their checks, like just holding their hand through the process. We do breathing exercises. I have lots of different tools that we can use, and birthing positions, all these things. Mostly I just support them in doing what their body wants to do naturally, because our bodies are pretty much, you know, trained to know what to do. So you just have to work with your body and not against it, and really just surrender to the process of labor. It's really intense, but I'm really grateful to be there to witness it for folks. And I also do partner support, so making sure that, like, the person that's also supporting you has eaten and won't pass out, or how they're feeling about the situation, if they have any needs, and working with, you know, your birth team, like nurses and doctors, to make sure that everything's going all right, and helping you make decisions or ask questions, make sure you understand everything. And then I support breastfeeding if you're interested in breastfeeding, as soon as the baby's born, and do chest to chest, do skin to skin, things like that. And then I do one postpartum visit as a labor doula as well. So I'll just come and, like, check in on, like, mommy blues or postpartum depression, and like your nutrition, just see how things are going, process your labor, all of that. And then as a postpartum doula, I come and I just like an extra set of hands while you have a newborn. So I'll, do laundry, run errands, cook meals, prepare snacks, things like that. Organize a little bit, spend time with the baby or other kiddos in the house, so that, the parents can have a rest. And then I do meal planning and meal prep services as well. So prenatally or postpartum, I'll like create meals based on like postpartum and prenatal nutrition, based around your lifestyle, what you like to eat, all that kind of stuff. So I'll shop it and either prep it or cook it and bring it to you. And then I'm a lactation counselor, so I help people with breastfeeding, just make sure they have a good latch, help troubleshoot any issues, refer them if it's out of my scope of practice. Yeah, and then some other classes right now, like I'm in an herbalism class, so I'll be offering more herbs and tinctures and stuff to clients in the future. I'm doing a yoga teacher training this month, so I'll be doing a lot more with yoga postures prenatally to strengthen your pelvic floor and stuff, which can help lessen or minimize tearing, things like that when you're in labor. And I'm doing a childbirth ed class at the end of this year, so I'll be offering childbirth ed probably next year. So that's really exciting too. All that.
Yeah, you do a lot. A lot, Olivia.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
I know, it's a lot of things, right?
Yeah, that's Kismet Doula Services for y'all. Take notes if you need to go back in the recording.
It's all on my website.
Take notes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're starting a fundraiser coming up here. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I'm so excited. So, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, my dad just died a couple of weeks ago, and I was meant to do this fundraiser a couple of weeks ago, but honestly, since I'm dealing with this like loss, I feel like it's even more exciting because it's a whole freaking pandemic, dude. Like, I cannot imagine bringing a child into the world right now. There's just so much going on, so much uncertainty, loss, especially for Black folks. There's been so much loss this summer and grief and anger. And it's just, life is a lot right now for a lot of folks. And I feel like for the rest of the year, at least, I just want to serve people. And I really have been thinking a lot about like capitalism and the ways that we uplift Black capitalism and Black entrepreneurship. And, I really never became a doula to make a lot of money. I also have a full-time job. I just do all of these things. I mean, kind of for fun. I charge people, but I really just enjoy it. It makes me happy. And I think it's important for our community. So it's really more of a service and a gift to folks than like something I'm trying to make money off of. And I really want to serve more people this year. I feel like people really need it. So I'm having a fundraiser to raise $5,000 for 5 families. So I want to provide 5 families with like holistic support from all of my labor services, all my postpartum services, my lactation services. So everything that I just said, that's like what one family would receive. And I want to do that for 5 families hopefully by the end of this year. We'll see if, pregnancy, 9 whole months. We'll see. At least in the next 9 months, we'll say. But yeah, that's my fundraiser. I really just think it's really important that people are supported right now. And I especially focus my business on serving Black and LGBT folks because in our Des Moines community, there's a couple of folks that serve LGBT folks that are white, and there's a couple of folks that specialize with working with Black folks. And me being like a Black queer person, I feel like I want to serve both communities.
Yeah, because they're not exactly separate.
Yeah, but I think so many things are, it's like queers over here, Black people over here.
Right.
Like, I'm both, so I really want to serve both. But anyway, so I'm going to focus the fundraiser on that too. So I'll have at least 4 Black families and 1 who's to say who it'll be. But I really wanted to have the majority and like focus my energy on Black folks specifically after the summer that we've had. So yeah, that's my fundraiser. I'm super excited. I feel like it will make my heart really happy to serve people for free to them. And yeah, after the amount of loss we've had this summer, just like really uplifting 5 new lives in the world, like a new generation of folks who hopefully won't have to be fighting these battles that we've been fighting this summer or in our lives. Like, I hope, I just think we need hope and life and like joy, always joy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so excited for this. And by the time this airs, because this is going to air in December, and it is, what month are we in? September? Towards the end of September. So you probably will already be starting the process of serving these families. I'm going to put the GoFundMe in the link, but also we're adding Olivia's PayPal so that you can, just slide in whatever you feel called to slide in, and let them know what you're donating that to, or even if you just want to support Olivia in their endeavors, because as much as like, yes, they have a full-time job, I also have a full-time job, and like the work that we do outside of that is definitely like heart-centered, and like, yes, it like brings us so much joy, but it also is still a lot of physical labor, and so we deserve to be supported like financially or in other ways with our work, so that we can continue not only do the work for other people, but do the work for ourselves. Because we're not like this endless well without the support of our communities. So we need you, community.
Yes.
So please, yeah.
With like doula work and babies and stuff, it's like, I don't have any kids of my own. I don't know if I'll have kids in the future. That's another conversation for another day. But I feel like as a person who like loves my community, we have to support birthing people and like babies. Like our community will not survive if we only support folks who are adults or who are, teenagers. Like I feel like as part of like mutual aid, as part of like community care, like it's really, I don't have kids, but like I offer to watch people's kids or like try to, I guess not in a COVID reality, but I try, to be like someone who helps parent children in my community, because being a parent is freaking hard. There's no guidebook for being a parent.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's super important to like practice mutual aid, especially around like people who are birthing and people who are pregnant, people who have small children, because we need them. We need those children to be healthy and parented well and to grow up to be, amazing humans who are gonna be a part of, like, continue to be a part of our community and make it great.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And you just gave me an idea for a whole podcast episode on mutual aid, because I think that is so important. Yes. And like how we look at that, because that's a sidebar, but yes. If you want to be in a conversation, just yes, let's do this. So can you also talk? Yeah. So I was getting excited, and then I was like, wait. Can you also tell us about the Black Doula Collective? Because that is super dope. And also based in Des Moines, if you're from here, you know about that life. But like the fact we have a Black Doula Collective in Des Moines is dope and very much needed, because there's a lot of Black people in Des Moines and not a lot of Black support.
Yeah. Okay, so the collective, I guess, I don't know that I would say it's based in Des Moines, actually, because it's like a lot of, there's some doulas from pretty much all over Iowa. But there's...
Oh, sorry, like based in Iowa. Sorry, I should have been clear.
Yeah, it's just
based
Iowa.
in Iowa.
But,
Iowa.
Yeah, there's 6 of us. 6. Yeah. 6 Black doulas in Iowa. That's pretty exciting. 3 of them are based in Des Moines, so that's dope. And the rest of them are elsewhere, like Ames and Quad Cities, maybe. Anyways, yeah. So the Black Doula Collective, Iowa Black Doula Collective, just started basically like a lot of us have been in community with each other for a while. And I mean, it's important to have support, even as a doula, just because when I started as a doula in 2018, there were no other Black doulas in Des Moines at the time. And now there's three of us, which is really exciting. So I think forming a collective and being able to like bounce off each other for support, to share resources, to cultivate a larger community of people who care about Black birthing people. It's also really exciting. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be in community with other Black doulas and folks who care about reproductive justice so much. I think in all things, doing things in the community with other folks makes it better most of the time.
Yeah, it's wonderful that is something that's forming and growing. You guys have a lot of stuff. I know you do some virtual chats on your social media. So y'all make sure you follow them. Make sure you like and share about them. I actually am in an LGBTQ like parenting group that's specific for Black folks. And someone like posted about like what are some doula like services that you know of that are Black based, and I put you guys, and then someone from like another state was like, yo, my friend's a part of that. I was like, that's dope though. So you're famous, y'all. Yeah. You're famous.
There's really not a lot of like Black and LGBT specific doulas. There really isn't a lot. Most all LGBT specific doulas are white that I've seen at least. And Black folks in general get weird about LGBT things sometimes, just as a general statement.
Yeah, it's our community is there's a lot of homophobia there, like Black respectability. Yeah. Well, that's another podcast. I feel like a lot of our podcast episodes like weave it that in, but yeah, like Black Doula. The Iowa Black Doula Collective. Make sure y'all follow them. Also, Kismet Doula Services. Can you plug in your handles real quick so people can do that right now?
I'm Kismet Doula Services on Instagram and on Facebook. And on Twitter, I'm Olivia the Doula. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I be tweeting sometimes, especially when I go to conferences and stuff. I live tweet a lot about what's going on at the conference.
Ooh, I want to follow that. I may get a Twitter just to like watch you live tweet.
That's another thing I'm doing coming up is having this conference, which you're on the planning committee for. So.
Oh yes, say more to that. Oh my gosh, how did we forget that and all the things?
Yeah, I don't know when this conference is going to happen at the point of this recording, but I'm going to thinking of my Twitter, I've been to a lot of dope offerings in the past couple of months. The pandemic, as horrible as it is just in general, a good thing about it is that it has really increased access to a lot, especially in terms of like learning and webinars and conferences and things like that. But this other podcast that I like listening to called Natal, Natal, is about like the stories from Black birthing people. It's basically just storytelling. And they had a summit maybe a month ago. That was really beautiful. And then the Black Mamas Matter Alliance has had a couple of webinars that are really beautiful. And it just really inspired me to, and then I went to a conference that was not great about maternal health. And it pissed me off after being to so many great ones. But I was like, I'm going to have a conference. And so I started planning a conference kind of in coordination with the Supply Hive. They're going to support me in helping make this conference happen. And I have to reach out to some more partners, but more partners coming soon. But yeah, it's going to be a conference that centers like joy and Black birthing people. Because a lot of Black maternal health conferences are focused on disparity and loss. And like the numbers and the statistics around disparity are important because I think without data, things aren't always taken seriously. But I think at this point, like the data about the disparity has been shared enough. I don't, maybe not enough, but it's been shared a lot. Like I think most people who are interested in maternal health, yeah, I think most people who are interested in maternal health, like they got it. There's a disparity. Even people who aren't interested in maternal health have probably heard like there's a disparity, or could guess that there's a disparity.
Right.
So I want to have a conference that just centers joy and like amazing, parenting practices that people have, and centers like people with, differently abled bodies, people who are LGBT, like all these different ways to have families and to parent children and to be birthing. I think there's a lot of things that could be discussed, even like some advocacy. Like we have a lot of crisis pregnancy centers in Des Moines. Like, what's up with that? Something about that.
Yes. Yes.
Access to abortion. I don't know, so many things that, fall under this idea of reproductive justice that could be discussed, that I think I'm super excited to get into what topics and offerings are going to be there. But yeah, more details to come on that one.
I am so excited for what you're creating with this, and I'm honored to be a part of it. I think the fact that like you're going about it around joy. It's not that like we're ignoring the statistics. It's that we're not siloing our people to just the statistics, and we're starting to create solutions, because I think a lot of the times the statistics were created by white people or white systems that just focus on like kind of like victimizing or reblaming these communities for why they are in this state, and not really starting to work on solutions and like getting to the root of the problem. And so when those statistics are based on a white system, and then you have white people who are educating people on these statistics, it's still going to be like rooted in whiteness. And like, this is like completely like dismantling that. So I'm so excited for this. I think it's going to be dope. I'm so excited. And also thank you for being on this podcast. This is
thank you for having me. I love your podcast. I listen to like everything, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. And this month we are doing our BlPOC celebration giveaway. So for this episode, if you post on IG or Facebook a picture of something you feel safe sharing about your own journey in reproductive health, and your favorite quote from this episode, and then you tag Kismet Doula Services and Sunseed Community, your handle will be put in a drawing for a free 30-minute home practice consultation with me, Goddess. And that can look like whatever you need it to look like in the moment. So I'm excited to bring that to someone. So make sure you guys are tagging us and sharing this podcast episode and learning more about Kismet Doula Services and Iowa Black Doula Collective. This is so dope, y'all, and so needed. If you're from Iowa, you get it. You get it. If you know about that life. Thank you so much, Olivia. And I can't wait for our friendship to blossom and for more conversations like this to happen.
Yes, can't wait. Thanks for having me.
That's it, y'all. That's our show. Big thank you to Black Dream Escape for providing us with the intro and outro music for season 2. We sincerely love your work and hope rest comes to us all. And big thank you to Vesta for producing our small but mighty podcast. This show is powered by the people. May the abundance come back to you and spread like wildfire. Sunseed Community is a space to practice collective healing. We do this through workshops, body and energy work, tarot, individual container building, and this podcast. To learn more, book us, and support us, visit sunseedcommunity.com and follow us on IG or Facebook at Sunseed Community. Bye, y'all.
Rest will come. Rest
rest will come. Rest will come. Rest will come.